So I'm Devin Zeidelman, Director of Scientific Real Estate Advisory for Scheer Partners based in Rockville, Maryland. And we have the pleasure of hosting Kelly Schulz, the CEO of the Maryland Tech Council. If you're not familiar with the Maryland Tech Council, there's so many things that they are doing, not just within the life science space, but everything that life science touches, cybersecurity, manufacturing. And so Kelly, before we get into MTC in particular, you sort of have a storied and well-documented, amount of experiences in Maryland in particular. And so we'll just love to better understand your background and sort of the arc of your career.
Yeah, well, I guess my career stemmed from public service. So I'm very fortunate to still, I guess in a way be doing public service in my new role. But I served the state as a legislator representing my district in Frederick County, was elected twice to that position and served as the secretary of the Department of Labor for 4 years in the first term of Governor Hogan. And then I became the Commerce Secretary in his second term. And now I'm able to utilize the knowledge that I have, I guess, with workforce development and economic development and how they are dependent on each other to be able to grow these industries that I'm so passionate about, which is life sciences and technology.
Yeah, it's really well put. And, today was a big day. The Montgomery County Council just approved $560,000 in fiscal year 25 funding for BioHub. And so for those that are less familiar, what is BioHub Maryland? And, what is the goal of BioHub Maryland?
Yeah, so BioHub Maryland was the brainchild, I guess, of members of the Tech Council before I got here. So my Chief Operating Officer, Michelle Ferrone, who's been with the organization for 28 years, she started talking with industry members about 6 or 7 years ago about this gap that they had with manufacturing, entry-level manufacturing for sites that did cell and gene therapy and some pharmaceutical manufacturing here in the state. And so in order to be able to fill that gap, there's been these ongoing conversations about how do we do some specific training just to fill that gap. So for the last many years, we've been on this path, and myself personally with the team for the last year and a half, to secure additional funding from the state, from Montgomery County, where the facility will be held, and some money from the federal government to start some initial processes a few years ago. But it was announced today that there is a partnership now with Montgomery County government to be able to put a lease agreement in place for a period of 5 years that they're going to be able to help us with that lease. We will build out and equip that space with a full GMP line to do that very specific training to put people into employment immediately with these businesses that are expanding and that we will hopefully be attracting here to Maryland.
Yeah, it's such an asset to have. I mean, just thinking about the upskilling of our, regional and statewide population, biomanufacturing isn't something that necessarily requires a 2-year or 4-year degree, but really a technical sort of acumen of how, SOPs work and, how to work in a lab as a tech and at the bench. And so, how important is it to have physical space in Maryland for these type of programs?
Well, it's critically important, right? So, I'll give you an example. Last week, I was up in Delaware talking with the Delaware Bio folks. They had their annual conference, and I was on a panel with some regional representatives, one of which being one of the major site selecting organizations in the country. And from his perspective, workforce development is the key issue as to what all of these industry sector representatives are looking for when they're moving into any specific area, looking to grow or expand. So we realized very early on that having a globally recognized curriculum that would satisfy the needs of many industry partners in this field would be something that would be an asset to have that resource here in Maryland. So we went to Dublin to an organization called NIBERT, who has this curriculum that is globally recognized as the leading standard for the curriculum. And we secured that for Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And now the Maryland Tech Council is going to be opening up our training facility in Montgomery County, in the heart of where the biomanufacturing is occurring. And I think it's going to be a huge asset when we talk about attraction. It's so important to have all of your pieces in place as you continue to attract new business to our area.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talks about DMV or sort of more broader regional play for attracting talent and having options for business attraction, for economic development. When people see BioHub Maryland or see these other programs coming out of MTC, at face value, you kind of see it on a website or you might see promoted, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And so can you just peel back the curtain for us a little bit, just in terms of like developing a curriculum, very difficult to do, finding facilities to support that curriculum, very hard to do. So what does it look like to be in your role as a CEO and you're taking your experiences and really thinking about, okay, giving people some insight into that process?
Yeah, so I think the very first part of that, right, was to identify the problem, that a problem exists. And there were studies and research that was done as to the number of unfilled jobs every single year that are occurring because there is no talent that is skilled in order to be able to take these jobs. And there wasn't enough resources in the current academic paths in order to be able to fill those resources. So there was one study that was done that said it was 3,000 jobs every single year that went unfilled with this specific industry. And with that, you're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue that is being left on the table for the state, local government, for the communities, and for those families that could benefit from having skilled training in this type of job. So looking at the curriculum is one part of it, right? And being able to find the exact point of the exact type of skills that are going to satisfy the needs for a broad sector of businesses that are doing this type of manufacturing. So that was done. That took a lot of research to make sure that we had the best in the world, because this is a global community and it is a global economy when it comes to this biohealth. Once we had that, it was a lot of conversations. It was a lot of talking, and it was a lot of educating the policymakers to make sure that they understood that this really needed to be a public-private partnership, because it will end up benefiting, the local and state government on so many levels, and for them to be a partner with us. And that, quite honestly, it took a couple of years, a couple legislative sessions, and work to talk to legislators to get them to understand the importance and the economic value that's involved here. Then there's all of the implementation parts, right? We've hired a trainer a couple months ago. He came on board and he went to Dublin to get trained in this specific curriculum. And now we're going to be signing a lease, and we're going to have to purchase the equipment, and we're going to have to start the classes and putting training schedules together. And in case you didn't know, the Maryland Tech Council is not a workforce agency, right? But fortunately, we're surrounded by a lot of people that have that experience of workforce. And I'm very fortunate to have had my 4 years of experience at the Department of Labor and looking at those skilled training facilities and understanding the work that needs to go into it, and ultimately the benefit that comes from it.
Yeah. And, MTC, to your point, does a lot, multiple sectors that you're addressing with technology and then a lot of adjacencies. And so that's a good segue, I think, to educating folks just about sort of the work that you're doing, not just specifically in life science, but, when you think about other emerging sectors and the way that you're approaching the growth and evolution of those sectors in the state of Maryland, and it's not just Montgomery County, right? There's a lot going on in Prince George's. There's a lot going on in Howard County. And so you have to think about this more broadly. And frankly, I see you everywhere, because I don't know how you do it, but you really are representing industry and what is needed for that growth. And so can you just talk about your approach to thinking about it from a statewide perspective, knowing that you do have some of these established clusters?
Sure. Well, first, I'll just say that the Maryland Tech Council is unique amongst all the other states. All of the other states, we are the state affiliate for US Bio. So for the bio organization in DC. And in all of the other states, they have a specific organization that is just, and I don't mean that lightly, but is just the bio affiliate. In Maryland, we are also the state affiliate for those national tech organizations as well. So under our umbrella, we really do represent technology from the realm of life science, biotech, medtech, all of that stuff, and also digital tech, cyber tech, energy tech, ag tech, sustainability, and everything in between. Some of the bigger sectors that are coming out now, AI. I think one of the most interesting parts of having all of this under one umbrella at MTC is that now those technologies are starting to collide with another, right? Coming from one side to the other. There's a lot of conversation about AI and biotech, and obviously cybersecurity, runs the entire gamut of every industry. But our members are starting to find this value in the sharing of the technology and the ideas, and have them all in one place to be represented by one organization is kind of fun. We get to talk about a lot of life-changing, innovative ideas that are happening all across the state, being a statewide organization. And yeah, it does keep us busy, but I'll just go back to, I kind of began my career in professional as a public servant. And I really do feel that this is a value for the state of Maryland to be able to grow what we have already here as our assets, and to continue to expand on the assets that we do have.
Yeah, I mean, you all have a tall task, and something that you've done with grace and really looks to execute at a high level. And, a lot of companies and entrepreneurs and startups have been able to take advantage of that within the state of Maryland. You have complementary support from groups like TEDCO. You have complementary support from groups like, John Hopkins, or from University of Maryland. And so, there's a big community aspect to how you are navigating the evolution of industry. And so I guess with that being said, thinking about just the way you approach that from a leadership role, and the way that you're not only managing your internal team at MTC and integrating that sort of approach with your membership, but really at the end of the day, it really kind of runs across the population. And so, what is your approach to leadership and management?
Gosh, that's a really loaded question, but yeah. I think it's always been my leadership style. I don't know if it's been intentional or just kind of the way that I am, to make the team such a big part of where we're going, right? So the decisions have to be, talked about and made across the board. And there has been some changes at the Tech Council. We have expanded into areas like energy and ag tech that we haven't done before. But doing it in a way that makes the team feel excited about it, that there's the real possibility for growth and excitement around some of these new innovations. Then you get everybody's in, and it's all hands on deck, and people just want to participate and be a part of that, and have them also share in what that vision looks like, I think is super important. And then I would say, from the perspective of the community at large, I get it that they need to see people in person, right? We live in a world now where some people have kind of gone off the grid and everything is virtual and all of that. But this community, and for those that might be interested in joining this community, they really need to see you live and in person. And they need to know that the support system is going to expand to them, and they have a place where they can feel safe to grow and expand based on their own desires and their vision of what they want to do individually.
Yeah, and being a steward of that community, I mean, again, a tall task, and something that your team has executed with grace. But how are you thinking about mitigating risks with this kind of adapting world that we live in, right? There's some of the larger macro trends that are affecting people's day-to-day lives. Obviously, 4 years ago, we had a pandemic, and it's a very long time ago at this point, but I think we're kind of still feeling a little bit of the lag from that. And there's a lot of other future sort of things to think about. So with that being said, what do you think about the future of Maryland, and where do you want to see your work, and where do you want to see the growth occur, over the next 5 or 10 or 15 years?
Yeah. So no matter what business you're in, what industry you're in, there's always a risk that's associated with growth, right? That it's just risky. How do you manage internally? How do you maintain momentum? How do you satisfy the needs, in our case, of our members that are here, and making sure that we have what they need to be successful? With that, you have to be cautious, and having an entire team behind you that really feels and understands the commitment to what's needed, that has to be done. But there are also financial realities that are around that, right? So if there is growth, my view on that is we bring on additional types of industry sectors, and we maybe help to create programming around it. We need that support also from the community, right? So we need for the community to understand that we are going to be a vehicle in order to be able to provide these types of services with the help and the support of the industry. And I'll do one example. The data center industry. So hot topic of conversation around the state and really around the globe, right? Back in 2019, we realized, that was my first year at the Department of Commerce, we realized that there was untapped resources available for data center activity and revenues to be generated in the state and in the local communities and in their budgets. And we put in and supported a bill to be able to eliminate the state personal property tax, which would help to attract those data center businesses here. It took us 2 years to get that bill passed. In 2020, we got that bill passed. And sure enough, just like they told us, they came and they started knocking on Maryland's door. It's now taken 4 years to get to the point where we have some real development possibilities going there. And this industry and the leaders in this industry right now want to utilize the Maryland Tech Council as a vehicle in order to be able to coalesce their industry sector and us be able to organize that so that they have a solid voice, so that they are in one spot to be able to do that. With that, we need help from that industry in order to be able to make that work, right? If we're going to be doing additional events, if we're going to be coordinating, if we're going to be educating and advocating all of that with policymakers, then we need their help and their support. That industry is very appreciative of having a local organization like the Tech Council to kind of pull everyone together and corral those resources. So they have become a great personal partner of ours, right, in order to be able to see how we do that. And I see that happening with all of the other sectors in technologies areas that we can help do. The life science industry may not need us for that. The data center is a brand new industry coming to the state of Maryland. They might need us for that. And we can't be everything to every industry and every sector of that industry. But if we have the appropriate partners, then we can certainly help to be the catalyst to pull that together.
Yeah. And, when you think about how you're collaborating with partners and, being a membership organization, Scheer Partners, and Matt Brady in particular from our team is on your board of directors. So you have a good mix of public and private sector with a variety of disciplines and a variety of expertise. And so is this something that you foresee being truly a private-public partnership and utilizing that joint resource? Or is there someone that needs to take the lead? Because a lot of times you don't have that champion that raises their hand. I mean, MTC certainly has filled that role. But again, you mentioned you can't be everything to everyone. So, how do you approach partnerships?
I would say a great example of a partnership that we just were able to come together with was the Baltimore Tech Hub application. So really excited about the possibility for them that region to get that EDA grant. like I said, we are a statewide entity, right?
Right.
They needed, as part of their application, they needed a workforce option in order to be able to satisfy their biotech and their AI application. That's what they're moving forward with the EDA. So we said, we have a ready-built workforce development program for entry-level GMP for biotech manufacturing. Mm-hmm. Let's just pick that up, and when we get this application granted from the feds, then let's just utilize that, and we will be your partner. We don't have to be the solution for what they're doing 100%, but we can help to be a part of it. And I see that with other organizations across the state where we can partner either at the public or the private level, right? At the public level, we see a lot of times, obviously we have this now great partnership with our BioHub training center happening in Montgomery County, and with their full support. So what is it else that we can do in order to benefit the Montgomery County economic development drive in order for them to feel as if they can move forward? And we have those types of partnering conversations just about every day with people across the state. Fortunately, the more that we're out there talking to people about what we can do, they start to realize that we actually are an organization that can help to get that done, right. Which also makes us really busy, but it also is helping to satisfy the mission and the vision of what we have to be, that strongest ecosystem in the country to satisfy the needs of these sectors.
Yeah. And when you speak about the ecosystem, I've heard you speak about it in a variety of different applications and platforms, but it's the diversity aspect of, upskilling an industry, growing an industry. And, I had the opportunity to listen to you at the Women in Bio event a couple of weeks back. And, being a woman leader, from policy, and then now being in your role at MTC, does that change the dynamics of how you are approaching and mentoring folks in the space and trying to create a more inclusive environment to think about, leadership roles in the future? And, you had some really strong remarks during that event, and, maybe you can share some of that now as well.
Yeah. So that was a fun event, the Women in Bio event that we were at a couple weeks ago. But, every new leader that comes into an organization is going to have a different set of strengths and or weaknesses, right? It just so happens that the strengths that I pull from my past experience was in policy, right, in the political realm, and able to maneuver and have the understanding of how to maneuver certain situations and areas. So that's a strength. And right. I don't have a science background. Previous CEOs in this position have had a strong science background. So I tend to lean on other people as far as the actual day-to-day implications of what's happening in the science world. I learn a lot from people that we surround ourselves from the really cool innovations that are helping to save humans every single day, which I find fascinating. Yeah. But with my team, I think that they can pick up those senses of where those strengths are. And I think even the sector can, right? So if we've become very strong in an advocacy role where they may not have been as easy to go out or felt as if they could go out and advocate on certain issues, that's where we're going to go now, because that's a strength. And that is giving additional highlights to our organizations and different things that we're capable of doing. And I find that people in, especially the tech world, find that that's a plus for them, where they may not have felt as if they've had a big advocacy kind of effort in the past. As far as being a woman in this role, which is what we talked about at the Women in Bio event, it's being a woman or the first woman or in any type of a role is always, people are going to try to make it a big thing. I was the first female secretary of the Department of Labor in Maryland. I was the first female secretary of the Department of Commerce in Maryland. I had no idea that any of this was true until somebody told me that it was true, right?
Right.
So you don't walk into that situation saying,
Right.
what am I going to do? Right. I'm the first one. You just go in there with the set of talent and the experiences that you have and try to get as many people enrolled in what the vision is as you possibly can, and then just move forward and kind of build things and make them happen.
Yeah, I think that's so important, that perspective, because to your point, it's, you know, it's impressive on people, I think, on a societal level that, you have to be thinking about, how you build a inclusive workforce. How do you ensure that you're addressing underrepresented populations? And at the end of the day, people are people, right? And that's the beauty of it. People are people. They want to work. They want to address health disparities. They want to create an opportunity for their next generation. And so, I think that point is well taken, and it's something that I think, that we can continue to talk about. But then again, I think we're getting to a point where it's just, we're people, we're working together for a common cause. And so, part of what we're doing at Scheer is working with BioBuzz, which is a great organization promoting the Mid-Atlantic life science community. And you've been nominated as an awards finalist. And so what does that mean to you to be recognized by your peers and industry?
Well, first of all, the whole team is super honored to get recognition for something that has been really a part of the fabric of their being, our being, for the last many years, to see it now come to fruition. So when we were nominated for this award, we didn't know how quickly we were going to be able to go to market, right? Commercialize our product that we had with this training. And so now that we're coming upon time to actually celebrate the award, we know that we are going to be up and running by late summer, early fall. So
Wow.
I think it's a feather in the cap of everybody that's worked so hard to move it along, that has believed in the process, and gets tired of the process sometimes. You got to talk to a lot of people before you enroll them in what your actual vision is. But they have, and they have other people recognize the significance of the advancements and what the future promise is with the development of this additional resource in Maryland. It's like, people get it, right? People get it. They understand how important it is. And that, I think, just makes the team work even harder, because then you have willing participants to be there to help to support along the road.
Yeah. And I'd be remiss to say that you have some awards coming up as well, your annual industry awards. And so for folks that are looking to attend that or get more involved with MTC, how do they do that? Is that a great opportunity? And, what is that all about?
Yeah. So for those that don't know, the Tech Council, we do about 90 or more events a year, right? So everything from, really fun networking, happy hours, educational panels, webinars, to our bigger events that are, sort of our signature events. We have one of our signature events, which is our Icon Awards ceremony, coming up next Thursday on May 23rd. That's taking place at Bethesda Marriott. mdtechcouncil.com. People can go to our website and find out information if they want to go. But it's such a fun night to really recognize all of the cool people, all of our members, our associate members, our industry members, everyone that has done really fun things to help to build the ecosystem around Maryland. It's one of, I guess, our members, actually, and non-members, we have a lot of non-members that come too, that they look forward to it every year, because it's a really fun night. People get to get dressed up and really just celebrate success. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. I admit last year was my first year attending, and I met some fantastic people as a, single ticket come in. You guys are very strategic in how you place people together and really organically create those collisions. So, for anyone that's interested in learning more about MTC and engaging with their membership, which is quite large at this point, I recommend that you try it out. But Kelly, really appreciative of you joining us today for BioBlast, and obviously hope to continue to work together to accelerate not only Maryland's bioeconomy, but a lot of the adjacent industries that are that are occurring.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to be here, and I can't wait to celebrate in person. And I appreciate the shout out to the Tech Council and to BioHub.
Absolutely. Well, Kelly Schulz, the Chief Executive Officer of the Maryland Tech Council here on BioBlast. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next time.